show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
by the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
President Trump slams Keir Starmer and accused him of caving into this lot.
We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
And now Starmer's relying on this guy to protect British territory. Well, maybe we could just get Brigitte to protect Akrotiri, actually. She looks like she throws a mean right hook. Plus, should we ban this pro-Ayatollah march through the streets of London? In other news, though, we have... Yeah, a shocking stabbing spree in Birmingham, and it was the spring statement.
New forecasts from the Office of Budget Responsibility show that our plan is the right one. Yeah. Inflation is down. Yeah. Borrowing is down. Living standards are up, and the economy is growing.
Yeah. Is she living in the same world that we are? I'm going to tell you how much your bills are set to go up. On my panel tonight, we've got writer and broadcaster Emma Webb, we've got GB News contributor Will Kingston, and journalist Jonathan Liss. And Israel has killed most of the people in the running to be the next Ayatollah. Yeah, you would have thought that they could have done that meeting over Zoom, don't you? You think by now they might have learnt their lesson, or there's no way Israel's going to find out that we're all meeting in the same place at the same time again. Anyway, and the Iranian women are yet again showing how brave they really are. I'll explain what's going on there shortly. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Starmer's put the French in charge of Britain's defence. Next.
Patrick, thank you. Good evening. The top stories. President Donald Trump has criticised Sir Keir Starmer and the UK's initial response to US-Israeli strikes on Iran, saying this is not Winston Churchill we're dealing with. He told reporters at the White House, "I'm not happy with the UK."
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it, for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Mr. President. Elsewhere this evening, authorities have put down a limited fire in the vicinity of the US consulate in Dubai due to a suspected drone strike, according to Dubai's media office. A US official and Dubai's government media office told the Wall Street Journal that a drone struck the parking lot of the consulate in Dubai. Footage on social media showed black smoke near the consulate. Dubai's government has also said it had contained the fire. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has spoken this evening.
That a drone unfortunately struck a parking lot adjacent to the Chancellery building and set off a fire in that place. All personnel are accounted for. As you're aware, we began drawing down personnel from our diplomatic facilities in advance of this.
Meanwhile, the UK is increasing its air defences at its base in Cyprus by deploying helicopters with anti-drone capabilities. The Prime Minister says the air defence destroyer HMS Dragon will be sent to the eastern Mediterranean, adding the UK is fully committed to the security of Cyprus and British military personnel based there. It is now being reported that the Royal Navy has said there will be no HMS Dragon departure till early next week now. Meanwhile, the US Embassy in Saudi Arabia has warned of an imminent threat of missile or drone attacks over Dhahran, a major centre for the oil industry and where a US consulate is located. The IDF says a short while ago it identified missiles launched from Iran toward the territory of the State of Israel. They say defensive systems are currently operating to intercept the threat. A British F-35B has shot down a hostile drone over Jordan, marking the first time a British F-35 jet has destroyed a target on operations. The Ministry of Defence says it was supported by RAF Typhoon jets and a Voyager air-to-air refuelling aircraft as part of their defensive operation to protect British interests and allies. The use of the F-35B in a live engagement represents a milestone for the aircraft in UK service. And the Chancellor says the latest set of forecasts show the government's economic plans are the right ones as she delivered her spring statement today. Rachel Reeves says Labour has ensured economic stability and security in an uncertain world. Growth in GDP has been revised down for this year from 1.4% to 1.1%, but the forecast has been revised up for the following years, rising by 1.6% in both 2027 and 28. The forecasts don't take into account any potential impact from the jump in energy prices triggered by the conflict in the Middle East, but the OBR says it could have very significant impacts on the global and UK economies. Those are the latest headlines. It's over to Patrick.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Good evening. It's non-stop humiliation under Sir Keir Starmer. Starmer is currently relying on France to defend our military bases in Cyprus. A British RAF base in Cyprus was attacked by Iran's proxy Hezbollah in Lebanon. Starmer did nothing. He just called for de-escalation. Can you fathom being led by someone that weak? Imagine being on a night out with him and someone walks up and pours a glass of wine over his wife's head and he just says, "Oh, we need to de-escalate this situation." don't we? It's pathetic. I mean, after the British base in Cyprus was attacked, Emmanuel Macron said that he's sending his flagship aircraft carrier. France is also expected to send Horizon-class and Frem-class frigates, a nuclear-powered attack submarine, 2 fuel supply ships and up to 40 aircraft. And it's not just Macron. Yes, the mighty Greek armed forces are also going to send 4 fighter jets and 2 frigates to Cyprus. Starmer is so weak that he's relying on the old cheese-eating surrender monkeys to protect us from the terrorists. I mean, the rumour this morning was that he might send one of our own ships, HMS Duncan, but it would take a whole week to get to Cyprus. Pathetic. We have 6 Type 45 destroyers, apparently. There are 3 of them that are currently in for maintenance, so can't be used. 1 will take several days to get ready. Apparently, only HMS Duncan and another one called HMS Dragon are ready to go. At the moment, the UK has no ability to defend Cyprus against ballistic missile attacks. And it was only at 4:10 this afternoon that Starmer finally said this. I've just spoken to the president of Cyprus to let him know that we are sending helicopters with counter-drone capabilities and HMS Dragon is being deployed. We will always act in the interest of the UK and our allies. Well, better late than never. I mean, the whole thing could have been over by now. All Starmer seems to care about at the moment is Britain's Muslim community, the Iranian regime and international human rights lawyers knowing that he's done absolutely nothing to the Ayatollah. Allahu Akbar man la manzar, Allahu Akbar, inshallah yamal shak. All he says now, and we're going to play you this clip in the next hour, it's hilarious, some of this stuff, all he keeps saying is Britain played no role in these attacks. Britain played no role in these. Like, he's proud of it. Most people would be queuing up to take credit for slotting the Ayatollah. Not our Prime Minister. He wants everyone to know he had nothing to do with it. Starmer is desperate to give the Chagos Islands away and make us pay for the privilege. He's basically handed control of Gibraltar to the Spanish without a shot being fired. He seems much more keen on prosecuting our own military than deploying them, and it doesn't seem to be his natural instinct to do anything to retaliate when a jihadi regime attacks our sovereign territory. The eyes of the world are looking at how each country is responding to the biggest global crisis of modern times. And until this afternoon, our leader was relying solely on the French for our national security. Remarkable. Oh, now this has happened. Iran's Revolutionary Guard are apparently plotting to rise up and do domestic jihad right here in Britain. And Starmer still won't prescribe them as a terrorist group. Honestly, whose side is this bloke on? Before I get to my panel, let's get some breaking news lines for you now from GB News' national reporter, Charlie Peters. And Charlie, there is indeed some breaking news lines. What's going on?
Well, straight away, Patrick, when you said that, Britain is relying on the French and, of course, also the Greek Hellenic Navy for its defence, it's also relying on Israel right now to destroy the missile and drone launchers in Lebanon. For some reason, we haven't heard from the British government after a drone was fired successfully at RAF Akrotiri, what work it was doing, not just to intercept those drones, but to destroy the people firing them. Let's be absolutely clear here. British sovereign territory has been hit, and there's no statement from the government about what they're going to do to find and destroy the culprits. The breaking news tonight, though, more broadly, Patrick, is we've seen several strikes across various areas in the Middle East. Most recently and most importantly, the US, the American consulate in Dubai. We can bring you now the moment of that impact. Well, as you've just seen there, major impact, the explosion seen in the distance. And that's you can tell by the sound, Patrick, it's a Shahed Martyr drone. That is the Iranians' main one-way attack drone. It costs only about $50,000 to create, but you can see the sort of damage and fear it can deliver. We've also seen impacts tonight in Qatar and also in Bahrain, with the Qataris sharing some footage of intercepts that they've launched tonight to defend their skies. I can also bring you now some more footage from Erbil in northern Iraq, where there's also been some interceptions tonight, highly likely to be fired by the Iranian proxies in Iraq. This footage coming to us just in the last 20 minutes or so of interceptions fired to destroy drones in the area. We'll be targeting the coalition base in Erbil. Plenty of Western forces there. But Patrick, let's now focus on the situation with the UK. Because, of course, it's been announced by the Prime Minister this afternoon that HMS Dragon will deploy. Earlier, GB News sources at the MOD suggested to us it would take at least 24 hours for Dragon to get up and running, but we're now being told by the highly reliable Navy Lookout website that HMS Dragon could take another, it could not depart until early next week from Portsmouth. Now, we should say that Dragon, according to Navy Lookout, very reliable resource, was on a NATO deployment footing, so it was preparing to go on different operations. And that HMS Duncan, the only other destroyer that we believed was available, actually has a few more maintenance problems that it needs to deal with, so can't deploy at short notice, which is why HMS Dragon has been brought out. I should also say, Patrick, that last Friday, when the British government gave the order to evacuate our embassy in Tehran, HMS Duncan was hosting a Families Day. It was, at the time, likely to be the most deployable air defence asset in the region. There are big questions here for the government because of this, Patrick. The Navy Lookout website said they are reporting that the Navy had offered the government the option to position one of those Type 45 destroyers ahead of that attack that we knew was coming based on the amount of resources in the region. But it seems that the government did not take that option. It did not go ahead with the option provided by the Royal Navy. And what does that mean? It means we do not have adequate defences to defend our air security from those ballistic missiles, relying on the French, the Greeks, and also, Patrick, the Israelis to protect that base and any other American assets in the region to intercept drones, missiles, and ballistics.
Well, Charlie, thank you very much. Lots of stuff going on there. I look forward to speaking to you again a little bit later on as and when we get some more. Charlie Peters there, our national reporter. Right, OK, so lots to unpack there. I mean, first things first, I just think, Will, the idea that British sovereign territory can be attacked by a jihadi regime and it's not in our Prime Minister's instinct to want to clap back on that.
Patrick, the man doesn't have any natural instincts. If you lobbed a tennis ball at him, I don't think he would move. This is a man thoroughly without conviction. He's no Trump. He's no Churchill. I would take a Chamberlain at the moment. At least Chamberlain had conviction. It was just the wrong conviction. Now, we've known this throughout his premiership, but there's one thing not to have any conviction on economic policy, but it is laid bare in times of crisis. But he will always be torn, looking to the left of his party, looking to, other stakeholders, by the tension between the interests of the Islamic vote and the interests of citizens of the United Kingdom and the interests of this nebulous international human rights law and the interests of the country. And because he doesn't have that foundation of conviction that Churchill had, that Thatcher had, that Chamberlain even had, he will never, ever be able to put the country in a safe, defendable position in times of crisis.
Well, by the way, we're going to talk about this a bit more at 10 because Starmer has popped up twice in the last couple of hours, again, to release videos to make it explicitly clear that Britain was not involved in anything to do with killing the Ayatollah. One of them is what we believe was an iftar event in the parliamentary estate this evening. Desperate to try to make it abundantly clear to people that we had nothing to do with the killing of the Ayatollah, and that just shows you which side he thinks his bread is buttered, doesn't it? But, Emma, when the Hezbollah attacked Akrotiri in Cyprus, Emmanuel Macron's instinct was to send, I mean, I read them out there, a catalogue of different warships and planes and submarines and all of this stuff to that area to try to defend that base. Starmer has dilly-dallied around for a bit and we might be getting HMS Dragon in a couple of weeks.
No, I mean, it is dangerous to be this pathetic. And as Charlie pointed out there, we knew this was coming. The general public knew that this was coming because because of the whole debate around Chagos. Trump obviously wanted to use it in order to be able to attack Iran. They've attacked now because Iran is in a particularly weakened state. There is absolutely no excuse for the Prime Minister, even if it was that he wanted to continue to slavishly obeying international law, even when it's not in the interests of this country, as he did over Chagos. Even then, if he was just thinking that we will act in defence, at the very, very least, he should have made sure that everything was ready to be deployed in order to defend our RAF bases, but also, as you say, it's British sovereign territory. The message this sends to the rest of the world is that Britain is we're just sitting ducks. So I really think people should be very, very angry, actually, at the Prime Minister, because this, like I say, it's dangerous to be this pathetic. He's putting us at risk.
Dangerous to be this pathetic, Jonathan.
I love how everyone's defending Macron. Macron was saying that this war is illegal, so obviously you disagree with him on some things, and he's absolutely right, by the way. And it amuses me, Emma, when you say we slavishly defending or following international law, so that's a bad thing. I can't imagine any situation where you would criticise someone for slavishly following domestic law, except when it's in our interest. Sorry, that doesn't matter if it's in your interest or not. There is such a thing called law, and you either follow it or you don't. I happen to believe that international law is the last bastion against chaos, disorder and barbarism. That's why it matters, particularly in times of crisis and peril.
Should he have not acted sooner when our own military bases were being attacked?
I am always willing to criticise Keir Starmer where it's due. I think that in this particular issue, it could have been deployed sooner. But I think his overall instinct on this one has been correct, which is to oppose this war for a start, to say that we're not going to play any part in attacking. He is allowed, I mean, it's funny that Trump is attacking him. He's actually allowing Trump to do what Trump wants to do within carefully sort of set out parameters and reasonable parameters, saying that you can use British bases to attack, for example, rocket launching bases, rather than sort of going for different targets. It's completely within our right to do that, by the way, and I find it very, very funny how these so-called patriots, the people on the right, who've never seen a war they didn't like, by the way, if Starmer had done everything Trump wanted, they would have accused Starmer of being a poodle and not having a backbone and surrendered our sovereignty. But because Starmer's actually standing up for British interests, they're accusing him of being some kind of anti-American traitor. And by the way, it's really important. It's really important to note that you're not in step with the British people on this, Patrick. 28%, only 28% of British people support this war. You're not even in step with the American people. 59% of Americans disapprove of this war.
Well, I'm sorry for not being as pro-Ayatollah as you, Jonathan.
I'm not pro-Ayatollah either, Patrick.
Like
Don't be so zero-sum game.
Like
Don't be so simplistic. You're better than that.
Sounds like it.
It doesn't. Well, it's not the case.
Oh, a lot of people are pro-Ayatollah at the moment. That's a bit of that's probably a damning indictment of where we're at.
Can I just say, I have reservations about this action in Iran. I think any sensible person would. That's not what we're quite discussing here. You mentioned international law as if it is on the same level as domestic law. It isn't. And, you know, the intervention in Bosnia when the Serbians were... the intervention in Serbia when the Bosnian Muslims were being genocided, that was also illegal under international law. But you know what the NATO countries did? They went in anyway. Because sometimes the thing that is morally right to do is not the same as what is illegal by international law.
I'll pick up on the international law thing as well, because I zoned out of the rest of Jonathan's answer. International law is a nonsense. There is an enforcement mechanism. There is an enforcement mechanism for domestic law. There is no enforcement mechanism for international law. I said this online the other day. If you think that Trump has contravened international law, call up the international police, tell me how you get on. It is a nonsense. If you think this is the last bastion against barbarism, then what you are saying is that people like Putin and Xi are only not committing bad behaviour because of Western precedent and international law, which is demonstrably untrue. They are already doing bad stuff. They couldn't care less about it.
Will, and we shouldn't put ourselves on their level. How about that? You always talk about democracy, values, but actually you just want to be the same as Iran. That's the truth of it, isn't it?
We talked about
the same as Iran. I mean, that's such an unbelievable straw man. You've completely undermined any point that you would make because it's such an unreasonable
He wants to be... He just thinks Iran can break international law, why can't we?
Well,
that's basically what you're saying.
In the case of the Chagos Islands, that judgment by the International Court was only advisory. So you just sound like you don't understand international law and how international law works.
Well, look, we're going to come on, like I said, at 10 p.m. for what is really kind of a remarkable turn of events about who Keir Starmer clearly is trying to appeal to in this country now? We know that we've seen the latest polls, which, well, one of them anyway, puts the Green Party in second place, remarkably. And we know that, obviously, the Green Party has now really thrown its arms around vast swathes of the British Muslim community. Keir Starmer is clearly trying to appeal to them in just the most kind of nakedly self-serving way that you've ever seen. I've got a couple of clips that have just come from tonight to show that. And if he is willing, as a result of that, to do away with our special relationship with the United States and to undermine our relationship with Israel, singularly to appease people who might vote Green at the next election, I'm sorry, I think we've got big problems. But it is, of course, the Great British Giveaway now. We're back doing this. Good.
Wow.
This will take your mind off World War III. It's a camper van.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benevan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody. So, coming up. Well, the war in the Middle East could send your annual energy bill soaring to an eye-watering £2.5 grand. But has this Labour government's net zero obsession left us at the mercy of the oil and gas markets? Before that, though, should a pro-Ayatollah march be banned from taking place in central London in just a few weeks' time? That's next.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
It's a surprise.
honest. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
But on Iran, I want to make clear the UK was not involved in the offensive strikes of the US and Israel, and that remains the case.
Yeah, there you go. That's just the Prime Minister speaking apparently at an iftar event in Parliament tonight, just reiterating how uninvolved we are in the killing of the Ayatollah. More on that shortly. First, though, should the Al-Quds March be banned? It's time for the head-to-head. Well, and there are calls tonight for a march linked to the Iranian regime to be cancelled amid claims that it is a hotbed of anti-Semitism and extremism. So the Al-Quds March takes place in London each year during Ramadan and is currently scheduled to take place in a few weeks' time. Demonstrators have previously been pictured waving the flag of Hezbollah, an Iranian-backed terror group, actually the same one that's just attacked British military bases, and carrying banners praising the now recently deceased Iranian Ayatollah. The march is organised by the Islamic Human Rights Commission, which said in a statement on Sunday that Ayatollah Khamenei was a, quote, rare role model whose legacy will be etched into history as someone who resisted oppression and stood on the right side of history. Although organisers insist the march is just a peaceful protest against Israeli government policy and not directed at Jewish people, several Labour MPs and peers have called on the Home Secretary to stop it from going ahead. So look, tonight I am asking, should we stop the Al-Quds March? Going head-to-head on this now, our journalist and political commentator Samuel Sweek and the Telegraph columnist, easy for me to say, and presenter of the Brink podcast, Jake Wallace. Simon, thank you very much. Jake, I'll start with you. Should we ban the Al-Quds March?
I think I'll file that under questions to which the answer is yes. I mean, it's totally obvious that we should ban this march. It shouldn't be taking place in Britain in the first place. It's a lightning rod for every conspiracy theorist, anti-Semite and violent jihadi we have in Britain. It was instituted by the Ayatollah Khomeini, who started the Islamic Revolution, of course, in 1979, as a kind of focus for his people to have a fanaticism, a fanatical hatred of the Jewish state, which is thousands of miles from Iran, has nothing to do with Iran. But his sort of religious doctrine revolves around anti-Semitism. It's been imported into Britain, hasn't been stopped. And of course, we've had 20 kidnap and assassination plots on British soil by Iranians, foiled by the police just since 2022. There was an Iranian journalist stabbed in Wimbledon just a couple of years ago by Iranian stooges. We've had a terror plot foiled by the police just last year against the Israeli embassy by the Iranians. It's time to clamp down on these Islamist fanatics. They're not in charge. We're in charge. They need to play by the rules or get out of Britain. And this march has got to be banned.
Go on, Samuel, your views on the Al-Quds March, then?
Well, I think it's important to firstly not get sucked into the hysteria considering geopolitical events and what we've seen over the last few days in the Middle East. But it's important also to understand the history of Al-Quds Day, which was actually set up. I mean, the Khomeini did take credit for it, but it was actually the idea of one of his foreign ministers who he subsequently fell out with, and actually he ended up never taking part in the original Al-Quds marches. They were done as a diametric response to Israel's Jerusalem Day. So in my opinion, to say that the people who are attending the Al-Quds march are supporters of any of the barbarity that we've seen in Iran under Khamenei and anybody who sort of was his predecessor is just like saying that all people in Israel and all Jewish people are supporters of, say, ethnic cleansing, you know, which is actually, you know, part of what the origin of Jerusalem Day was celebrating. That was the reunification of Jerusalem, which actually came at the expense of many, many Palestinian communities in the region. As I said, it's important that people do not get sucked into that hysteria. But what you need to remember as well is this is nearly, I think we're at 45, 46 Al-Quds marches since the first one that have taken place in Britain. They are a place.
Well, this is it. I mean, look, they've had a good run. You know, they've had a good run at the old Al-Quds march. Maybe now it's the time to just pause for a little bit. I mean, look, Jake, I'll let you come back to whatever you want there, but I mean, you know, my concern is that a little bit like October the 7th, there was suddenly a big spike in anti-Semitism. We also saw it after the Manchester synagogue attack. There was an even more outbreak of anti-Semitism. I mean, there's a good chance this is probably going to be the best attended Al-Quds march this country's ever seen.
It's disgraceful. This shouldn't be happening. It's totally untrue to suggest that these are somehow peace-loving people who only oppose Israel because of its government's policies or something like that. These are often open terrorist supporters. In 2024, for example, 10 people were arrested for public order offences. There were placards about Zionist dogs. There was open support for Hamas. There were calls to end Zionism and the spread of open anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. This is not some kind of, tea-drinking, hemp sandal-wearing lefty affair. These are jihadis, and they represent the jihadi regime. I mean, one of the organisers of this march, the Islamic Centre of England, is the Ayatollah's office in London. Still hasn't been closed down, by the way, even though the Ayatollah was killed in his office in Tehran. Fun fact. But they held a vigil for the Ayatollah, praising him, as you said in the introduction, as some kind of hero. These people who idolise this mass murderer. This is a regime that killed more than 30,000 people in 2 days on the streets of Iran, has removed women's uteruses before returning their bodies, has taken people's organs out, has injected people with toxic substances, and has mounted terror attacks on our soil. We should not have a march here praising that regime.
Well, go on, Samuel. Do you want to come back to that? I mean, the timing of it, to have sort of the march maybe praising that regime is probably a bit on the nose.
The march is not praising the regime. Its origin is it's coincidental almost at this point. It's a wider expression of support for the Palestinian people. And we look at and I said about hysteria, we look at who's come forward and is in Parliament speaking against this march. We've got the likes of Luke Akehurst, Ian Austin, David Tell. These are Labour MPs and peers, well, I believe Austin isn't Labour anymore, who are heavily on the Israeli coin. Luke Akehurst, before he was even an MP, was an Israeli lobbyist. So it's no surprise that he's now using his platform in Parliament to demonise people speaking out in solidarity with the people of Palestine who have suffered under the Israeli regime for many, many years, such as the origin of this event. Obviously, more recent events have taken place, but people need to be able to have an outlet for to call the government into action and to end its complicity in those atrocities.
All right, okay, both of you. Look, obviously, we could carry this on. So sorry, we're going to have to knock it on the head there, I'm afraid. But it's political commentator Samuel Sweet, a Telegraph columnist and presenter of The Brink podcast, Jake Wallace-Simons. I will just say that obviously the Islamic Centre of England is not here to defend itself, and neither were some of the Labour peers, etc., who were mentioned there. Coming up, MPs have been handed an inflation-busting pay rise. They're going to be earning more now than 100 grand by the end of the year. Do you think they deserve it? But before that... How much is what we're seeing happening with Iran going to raise your energy bills by? I'll tell you next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Bit of a mixed bag weather-wise, looking across southern Europe at the moment. Yes, there's some wet weather in the west. We had Storm Regina pushing through Portugal, now bringing some rain across parts of Spain, even down towards the Canaries. Further east, a few showers for Italy, but across Greece, it's actually largely dry on Wednesday. Some decent sunshine, and with that, some decent warmth as well, with temperatures rising high teens, possibly low 20s. Still some further rain in Spain to come later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow starting fairly cloudy, but for much of England and Wales it should brighten up with some good spells of sunshine, some brightness across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but also a few showers. Big chunky area of high pressure dominating things at the moment. It's just waddling away to the east, which is allowing the air to waft up from the south, pushing a zone of cloudier weather across the Midlands and Wales. Been there all day, just a bit further north into Northern England and Northern Ireland, where we will see a little bit of showery rain through the early hours, eventually getting into southwest Scotland before dawn. Ahead of that, to the north, clear skies across northern Scotland, allowing some frost here. Further south, temperatures mostly holding up at 5 to 6 degrees. But it will be quite a cloudy, misty, murky start for many on Wednesday. But the mist and low cloud should be melting away from England and Wales. Probably a bright, sunny start in the far north, but it will be a chilly start here. That cloud pushing up through the central belt, some showery rain, particularly for Glasgow and for Belfast first thing. But it should be also clearing from here during the morning. The odd shower for the far northwest of England, for the Lake District, but most of England and Wales dry and increasingly sunny. Yes, we will start with mist and low cloud, particularly across the home counties, parts of the East Midlands, but that should be melting away, breaking up to reveal some spring sunshine, and say most of England and Wales seeing lengthy sunny spells by the afternoon. Some brightness for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but this zone of wetter weather clinging to parts of western Scotland. To the east, it may brighten up in Edinburgh, temperatures up to 12 degrees here, but further south we're looking at temperatures in the mid-teens quite widely, perhaps the southeast getting up to 17 or 18, and Thursday could be warmer still. The wind's still wafting the air up from the south, a brisk breeze across the northeast, some wetter weather though coming back into Northern Ireland and western Scotland, eventually some of that rain popping up in the west of England and Wales later on. But before that, the Midlands and eastern England, another pretty fine day and getting a little warmer. Goodbye.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Night. Now, when we always see these big global events, of course, it does have a direct impact on you right here in Britain. Specifically, your energy bills. They could soar now to a staggering £2,500 a year after the war in the Middle East sent gas prices rocketing to a 3-year high. Wholesale gas prices are up by 30%, the highest level the markets have seen in over 3 years. US and Israeli have triggered chaos in the Strait of Hormuz, a vital route for global energy and gas to come through there, of course. I mean, I would probably mostly put that squarely at the foot of the Iranian Ayatollah. But anyway, energy bills here in Britain are closely tied to wholesale global gas and oil prices. Last night, President Trump urged the Prime Minister to restart drilling in the North Sea immediately to combat the soaring energy prices. The government has restricted new exploration licenses and imposed a windfall tax on oil and gas companies. And this is having a devastating effect on places like Aberdeen. I'm joined now by the campaign director at Net Zero Watch. It's Maurice Cousins. Thank you very, very much. How exposed has the push for net zero left us to something like this now?
I mean, it's dreadfully left us exposed. I mean, we've known that we're basically in this country that we are a net energy importer for gas since about 2004, and we should have been putting things in place to be able to deal with that. But since the mid-2010s, we've known that we've got this vast resource of onshore natural gas in the form of in places like Lancashire and Lincolnshire, and we've failed to get that stuff out the ground. And part of the reason for that has been this ideological pursuit of net zero, which says that we need need to have net zero territorial emissions by 2050. And that has in turn been used by activists and others as a reason as to why we can't be getting our own domestic sources out of the ground. And they would rather see us using things like wind and solar and electrifying things like heating. But the problem with that, of course, is that those forms of power production are vastly more expensive than things like gas and coal, because they are less dense and they are less reliable. And so you need vast amounts of infrastructure and other pricing mechanisms in order to be able to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, as we look at some of the live shots above Tel Aviv, etc., and we're expecting another night of bombardment there potentially, and whatever else goes on. I mean, I think the Iranians have just fired something at a US consulate in Dubai, for example. So this is obviously rumbling on. But if we just drilled in the North Sea for our own resources, how much more secure would we be as a country now? What impact could it have on people's bills?
So if you talk to people within the sector, they will say to you that if you combine both onshore and offshore together, using existing consumption rates today, we would have more than enough gas to keep us going for at least 60 years. That is using, and that's based on assumptions of a 10% technical recovery rate. Now, of course, technologies improve all the time, and we might be able to get out more. If you marginally change some of those technical recovery rates, you could have at least 100 years worth of supply. You talk to people. The amount of onshore and offshore, people say that we've actually got about 500 years worth of gas supply, but beneath us. But you can't. Some of that is uneconomical beyond a certain point. It's criminal what we're doing. Absolutely criminal. You know, you've got politicians like Ed Miliband, Rachel Reed, and others. They are not putting the national interest first by taking advantage of these things, and it's having a direct impact on all of our bills, not just on your utility bill, but these things are also feeding through in your weekly shop. Supermarkets, their bills are going up. If you're going out for dinner, the things are going up there. It is utterly mad what we're doing.
I mean, to be fair, so these words very rarely escape my mouth, but to be fair on Rachel Reeves and Ed Miliband, you know, they kind of picked up where the Tories left off, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the Tories don't get off this particularly lightly either. You know, you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of this damage was done in the 2010s. But you know, we have been living in Ed Miliband's world since 2008. This is his agenda. It's his consensus that he forged with David Cameron in 2008. So you know, them sort of saying, "Oh well, we're only doing what the Conservatives did." That's complete garbage. This is as much of this. There has been a cross-party consensus on this. Labour signed up for it. They campaigned on it during on pretty much every single election since 2010. So this is on them as much as it is on the Tories.
So just practically speaking, when I read out a figure there that people's energy bills could rise to an average of about £2,500 a year now, based on what we're seeing going on at the moment. Do you agree with that figure? Do you think it could be higher, lower?
At this stage, it's a very fluid situation. I don't think we quite know. Part of this is whether or not the Qataris can actually produce the gas themselves. That's linked to missile and drone attacks on the facilities there. But if the United States the situation on the ground, which is looking increasingly. I mean, they've sunk pretty much the Iranian Navy here. So there's that aspect. The other aspect, of course, is then being able to ship that stuff out and between the Straits of Hormuz. And one of the main barriers to that has been that insurers are not willing to insure some of those vessels. But the breaking news tonight has been that Donald Trump has announced that the federal government will step in and provide cost-competitive loans and to underwrite some of that insurance for those maritime things. So you know, the United States is riding to the rescue, and you know, they've anticipated all these things. I'm sure they have. You know, Donald Trump is not an idiot. He knows that the Strait of Hormuz is a choke point, and they will have contingency plans for this. So I don't think it's entirely clear yet. There's some lurid headlines, I get it, and it's quite scary, but it's a moving situation.
Well, exactly. I mean, you know, obviously we had the spring statement today now because almost kind of immediately out of date by whatever goes on here, and you know, we'll have to wait and see. But if people's energy bills start going up and, you know, we are not drilling for things that we could be drilling for, or we're not fracking for things we could be fracking for, then at some point our government is going to have to account to the British public for that.
They will, and you know, today we've seen that they're maintaining the energy profits levy, which is forcing more and more operators to go out of business. It's also having a devastating effect on our heavy manufacturers. And you're right, they're going to have to be held to account. God forbid if a war breaks out, we won't have any spare industrial capacity.
Yeah, which is shocking. I mean, you look at the fact that we did not mobilise the one British Type 45 destroyer that we think we had at our disposal when our sovereign military bases were attacked in Cyprus, and then if we are left really exposed when it comes to oil and gas and fracking as well, I mean, good grief. But look, anyway, thank you very much. Absolute pleasure talking to you. Maurice Cousins there, who is the campaign director at Net Zero Watch. So, coming up at 10 p.m.
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Well, President Trump has obviously got stuck right into Sir Keir Starmer, accusing him of caving into the Muslim vote by refusing to join in with the strikes on Iran. Is he right about that? But before that, though, MPs have been handed an inflation-busting pay rise. They're not going to be problem paying their energy bills, are they? They'll be earning more than 100 grand a year. Do you think they deserve it? That's next.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here. GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. Very shortly we'll be showing you what Keir Starmer has decided to say at an iftar event in Parliament this evening. But MPs are set to receive an inflation-busting 5% pay rise, increasing their salaries from just under 94 grand to nearly £99,000 this April. The Independent Parliamentary Standards Authority chair says that the job has, quote, evolved, with MPs facing more complex casework and rising levels of abuse and intimidation. But while politicians will see their pay packets swell, with plans actually apparently to take their salary to around £110,000 a year by the end of the decade, many frontline workers like nurses also face abuse on the job, and they're being handed pay rises of just 3.3%. So tonight we're asking, do MPs really deserve this pay rise? Well, I'm joined now by farmer and former Conservative MP Neil Parish. Neil, thank you very much. Do some of your former colleagues deserve their pay rise?
Good evening, Patrick. No, I don't actually at this moment, because I don't think politicians are ever viewed very highly by the public. And I think the way, Parliament's gone on in the last few years, and this government as well, people are just about had enough of politicians, dare I say it. And I think offering 5% to them is wrong. I think public sector pay and pay generally is running quite high, and this is inflationary. And I think the MP should set an example and not take their 5%, because I don't think in this day and age they should have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, when Rachel Reeves was talking about the spring statement today and saying that people are feeling more money in their pockets, was she just talking about herself?
I think so. It sounds like it. And I also think, naturally, Rachel Reeves has done her best to sort of stall the economy with all the national insurance and tax rises. I think she is one that, lives in a surreal world. And I rather fear that the MPs actually all are inclined to live in a surreal world, and they're not really facing up to the responsibility, what's happening, what people are feeling, the hardship they're feeling out there. And I think, at this time, it would be better to take 2 or 3% and not the 5%, because I think it's too much when the country is actually struggling, partly due to Rachel Reeves' policies, of course.
Well, there's also a lot right across the board. I mean, whether it's pubs or small businesses, but also graduate jobs. I mean, we've got something like 1 million graduates going for about 10,000 jobs, I think it is now. A reduction of graduate jobs of about 45% month on month. A remarkable state of affairs. So to see MPs getting that pay rise is quite interesting. They do also get quite a generous expenses package, Neil, don't they?
Yeah, there is because naturally you can, if you live, more than an hour away from Parliament, then you can rent a flat or whatever. That is about £25,000 a year. Of course, in London, that doesn't go so far as it would in some places, but there is quite a lot with it. There's mileage expenses as well, and travel expenses when you get to Parliament and what have you, but that's actual amount that you get reimbursed. But I think the main thing is not to set an example by taking money at the moment when I feel the country is struggling, and I also feel that Parliament and politicians are at an all-time low as far as public esteem is concerned.
Well, Neil, thank you very much. A real pleasure. I will let you crack on with your evening, my good man. Neil Parish,
we're
Tory MP.
Skittles. Thank you very much.
All right, take care. Didn't hear that, but anyway, we'll figure out what he said in the break. Coming up at 10 p.m.
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either, so we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Well, look, President Trump has absolutely laid into the Prime Minister today, accusing him of caving into the Muslim vote by refusing to join in with the strikes with Iran. All of that and all of your front pages as well.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow starting fairly cloudy, but for much of England and Wales it should brighten up with some good spells of sunshine. Some brightness across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but also a few showers. Big chunky area of high pressure dominating things at the moment. It's just waddling away to the east, which is allowing the air to waft up from the south, pushing a zone of cloudier weather across the Midlands and Wales. Been there all day, just a bit further north into Northern England and Northern Ireland, where we will see a little bit of showery rain rain through the early hours, eventually getting into southwest Scotland before dawn. Ahead of that, to the north, clear skies across northern Scotland, allowing some frost here. Further south, temperatures mostly holding up at 5 to 6 degrees. But it will be quite a cloudy, misty, murky start for many on Wednesday. But the mist and low cloud should be melting away from England and Wales. Probably a bright, sunny start in the far north, but it will be a chilly start here. That cloud pushing up through the central belt, some showery rain, particularly for Glasgow and for Belfast first thing. But it should be also clearing from here during the morning. The odd shower for the far northwest of England, for the Lake District, but most of England and Wales dry and increasingly sunny. Yes, we will start with mist and low cloud, particularly across the home counties, parts of the East Midlands, but that should be melting away, breaking up to reveal some spring sunshine, and say most of England and Wales seeing lengthy sunny spells by the afternoon. Some brightness for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but this zone of wetter weather clinging to parts of western Scotland. To the east, it may brighten up in Edinburgh. Temperatures up to 12 degrees here, but further south, we're looking at temperatures in the mid-teens quite widely, perhaps the southeast getting up to 17 or 18, and Thursday could be warmer still. The wind's still wafting the air up from the south, a brisk breeze across the northeast, some wetter weather though coming back into Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Eventually some of that rain popping up in the west of England and Wales later on. But before that, the Midlands and eastern England, another pretty fine day and getting a little warmer. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
A camper van and cash could be yours in our very latest Great British Giveaway. You could be driving away in this brand new Benavan 122. This 2026 model, worth over £67,000, comes with all of the mod cons you'd expect. And that's not all, as you'll also get an incredible £25,000 in tax-free cash to boost your bank account this year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight.
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
President Trump slams Sir Keir Starmer and accuses him of caving into this lot.
We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
And now Starmer is relying on this guy to protect British territory. Fantastic. In other news, a shocking stabbing spree in Birmingham. Look, something like that seems to be happening most days now, doesn't it? I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Shall we get a sneak peek of what's on the front of one of them? Oh, well, it's pretty grim reading for Sir Keir Starmer, I'm afraid. The Independent leads with Trump's comments, he's no Churchill. There you go. On my panel tonight, we've got writer and broadcaster Emma Webb. We've also got GB News contributor Will Kingston and journalist Jonathan Liss. And Israel has decided to kill almost all of the people who were in the running to be the next Ayatollah. Yeah, you would have thought that by now they'd have figured out they should do some of these meetings by Zoom or maybe just over email, you know, don't all meet up in the same place at the same time. Anyway, the Iranian women are again proving how brave they are. Yes, I'll reveal exactly what's going on there. So get ready, Britain, here we go. Starmer's not fit to tie Churchill's bootlaces. Next.
Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. President Donald Trump has criticised Sir Keir Starmer and the UK's initial response to US-Israeli strikes on Iran, saying this is not Winston Churchill we're dealing with. He told reporters at the White House today, "I'm not happy with the UK."
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Authorities have put down a limited fire in the vicinity of the US consulate in Dubai due to a suspected drone strike, according to Dubai's media office. A US official and Dubai's government media office told the Wall Street Journal that a drone struck the parking lot of the consulate in Dubai. Footage on social media showed black smoke near there. Dubai's government has said it had contained the fire. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has spoken this evening.
That a drone unfortunately struck a parking lot adjacent to the Chancellery building and set off a fire in that place. All personnel are accounted for. As you're aware, we began drawing down personnel from our diplomatic facilities in advance of this.
That's as the UK is increasing its air defences at its base in Cyprus by deploying helicopters with anti-drone capabilities. The Prime Minister says the air defence destroyer HMS Dragon will be sent to the eastern Mediterranean, adding the UK is fully committed to the security of Cyprus and British military personnel based there. It's now being reported that the Royal Navy has said there will be no HMS Dragon departure till early next week. Meanwhile, it's being reported in the Washington Post that a CIA station in Saudi Arabia housed within the US Embassy in Riyadh has been hit by an Iran drone attack. The US Embassy in Saudi Arabia earlier warned of an imminent threat of missile or drone attacks over the Dhahran, a major centre for the oil industry, and also where a US consulate is located. The IDF, meanwhile, says a short while ago it identified missiles launched from Iran towards the territory of the State of Israel. They say defence systems are now operating to intercept any threat. A British F-35B has shot down a hostile drone over Jordan, marking the first time a British F-35 jet has destroyed a target on operations. The Ministry of Defence says it was supported by RAF Typhoon jets and a Voyager air-to-air refuelling aircraft as part of their defence their defensive operation to protect British interests and allies. The use of the F-35B in a live engagement represents a milestone for the aircraft in UK service. In other news today, police have launched a murder investigation after a man in his 20s died following a stabbing attack in Birmingham. Armed police were called to the scene in Bridge Road shortly after midday today. West Midlands Police confirmed this evening that it had launched a murder investigation as the man had died. A woman also suffered injuries that were not life-threatening or changing, the force said. A 32-year-old man has been arrested over the attack and remains in custody. And around 100 people have gathered for a vigil in South London to mark 5 years since the death of Sarah Everard. The crowd arrived at Clapham Common this evening to remember Miss Everard and all the women and girls whose lives have been taken through violence. The 33-year-old marketing executive was abducted, raped and murdered by then-serving Met police officer Wayne Cousins as she walked home from a friend's house near the Common on March the 3rd of 2021. He was later sentenced to a whole life term for her murder. Those are the latest headlines for now. It's over to Patrick.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good evening. Sir Keir Starmer is too afraid of the Muslim vote to stand up to the Islamist Iranians. That's President Trump's view. He told The Sun earlier on, Britain is not such a recognisable country. I mean, you look at what happened over the last period of time and it's very different. It's not going to matter, but Starmer should have helped. He should have. I mean, France has been great. They've all been great. The UK has been much different from the others. You've seen the Secretary-General of NATO, the great things he said, Mark Rutte, he's great. But no, they've all been pretty much great, other than, we think, Keir. Keir was just very different. Stop people from coming in from foreign lands who hate you, Trump went on, and asked if Starmer was trying to court Muslim voters. Trump said that could be the case. And then President Trump, of course, got stuck right in at a press conference a few hours ago, blasting Starmer over Chagos.
By the way, I'm not happy with the UK either. That island that you read about, the lease, okay, he made it for whatever reason, he made a lease of the island. Somebody came and took it away from him. And it's taken 3-4 days for us to work out where we can land there. It would have been much more convenient landing there as opposed to flying many extra hours. So we are very surprised. This is not Winston Churchill that we're dealing with.
Well, there is a reason that Starmer keeps saying stuff like this.
We were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran, and we will not join offensive action now. The United Kingdom played no role in these strikes. We were not involved in the initial strikes on Iran.
And he just can't help himself. He's done it again tonight.
Emmanuel, Friedrich, really good to hear from you.
I think we are all concerned about what could happen within the next couple of hours or days.
We weren't involved, as we've made clear.
We were not involved. We're not involved. We're talking to, of course, the German and French leaders there. And again, at what we believe, reportedly, was an iftar event in Parliament tonight.
But on Iran, I want to make clear the UK was not involved in the offensive strikes of the US and Israel. And that remains the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's relentless, isn't it? That's his big line, that we were not involved. And I think it's because he wants to appease people like this.
Raise the voice of Palestine! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
Look, the Green Party is currently very much on the march. New polling today revealed that the Greens are now 5 points ahead of Labour and only 2 behind Reform. Remarkable, isn't it? And Starmer knows that the Greens will, as he's accused them of doing in Gorton and Denton, try to manipulate the Muslim vote.
And what's going to make Ramadan even better is if we can get Hannah Spencer elected on the 26th of February. So let's make that happen and let's have a blessed Ramadan.
So the last thing he needs is for them to be able to say that he helped slot the Ayatollah. Let's be honest. I'm surprised that he hasn't gone the whole hog and attended a vigil for the great martyr himself. Maybe Keir could win a few votes back, maybe, by dressing like the Ayatollah. Ayatollah Keir Maney. There you go. I mean, in order to keep elements of the certain Muslim vote happy, Keir Starmer has been willing to play no role in the killing of the world's worst jihadi terrorist and to lose face with our greatest ally. Remarkable, really, isn't it? Let's get thoughts on my panel this evening. We are joined by writer and broadcaster Emma Trimble. We've also got GB News contributor Will Kingston and broadcaster and journalist Jonathan Liss. So, yeah, Will, I mean, look, this is the accusation. Anyway, when we see Keir Starmer repeatedly trotting out the lines, I mean, I've played it about 5 or 6 different occasions there. We had no role. We were not involved in the killing. What do you think he's trying to do there?
Well, Patrick, it's not just this. Everything that this Labor government does needs to be viewed through the prism of the Muslim vote. They courted it because multiculturalism is the new religion of the left, and they are desperately trying to cling on to it because, as you said, they are electorally finished if they can't manage to hold on to it, because they're sure as heck not going to win back the working class vote. But here's the thing. The British people are sick of it. They are sick of British interests being put second to minority interests. And more than that, they are sick of British customs and values being chipped away at day in and day out, whether it be at the local park where you have to put a leash on your dog, whether it be paying homage constantly to religious festivals and, well, to Muslim festivals, less so to Christian festivals, or whether it be to any other time where football games, any other time where it feels like the British culture is being seconded to an Islamic and minority interests. It's wrong.
Well, we can see the polling. Look, we know what's going on with the Greens at the moment. It's very little seems to be about anything environmental. It just seems to be much more about Gaza, about Palestine, and about what we saw, those tried and tested tactics that we saw in the Gorton and Denton by-election of deliberately targeting mosques. And by the way, it's not just me saying this, and people think, oh, Patrick, you're on the right and you're saying it. The Labour Party's line after Gorton and Denton was that the Green Party were trying to manipulate the Muslim vote. That's what the Labour Party are themselves saying. So I do wonder whether Starmer's response to what we're seeing with the Ayatollah is a part of that here.
The Green Party have shown that it works. And I think all you have to do is look at what lies beneath some of the victories of some of the senior Labour figures, including people like Wes Streeting, whose majority was dramatically cut by an independent pro-Gaza candidate. This is the future of British politics. The Muslim vote is going to play a really important role in our political landscape. It's here to stay, really. And I think what this just shows the unbelievable naivety of Keir Starmer here is that repeatedly, whether this is to flatter the Muslim vote or perhaps to say, please, Iran, don't attack any British interests, don't attack our RAF bases, for example, if that's his intention, it just shows his complete naivety, because Iran doesn't care whether we are practically allied with America or not. They're at the heart of their state is a theology that is apocalyptic. They are as a nation, almost the equivalent of a suicide bomber. They would be willing to take themselves out if it took out their enemies. So Keir Starmer's whole approach is completely naive and completely misled. And it's the Labour Party are not going to be able to compete with the Greens on this, or with the Independents.
Well, what do you think, Jonathan? What do you make of Keir Starmer's repeated comments there? Do you think that, as he's been accused of doing, that is an attempt to try to appease the Muslim vote, I suppose?
Well, I don't think that Muslim voters are in opposition to British voters, because Muslim voters are also British. And Will, if you substituted the word Jewish for Muslim in your diatribe, which I did do you respect to listening to, you'd be accused of being an anti-Semite. So make of that what you will. there's nothing wrong with taking Muslim voters into account, their views into account, going to iftars, celebrating Muslim festivals. If they were the only people that the government was doing that for, then you'd say that was strange, but they're not. They are part of the fabric of this society. And by the way, the fundamental point is that it's not just Muslims who hate this war. It's not just Muslims that hate endless campaigns of bombing Middle Eastern countries with overwhelming Muslim populations, or standing by while entire populations are sort of bombed off the face of the earth, OK? So, again, I come back to the point that a majority of British people disagree with this. Starmer is actually on their side. He's speaking for them more than you are speaking for them at the moment. And there's another thing, Patrick, which is called learning lessons from the past. Even if you think that taking out the Ayatollah is a good thing, and by the way, I have no sympathy for the Iranian regime whatsoever. If I'm pro-Ayatollah, then so are the majority of the British population, which I don't think you would say, then if it's the case that you could say that was a good thing, it's also possible to look at what happened in 2003, where people went guns blazing. We went guns blazing into Iraq. We thought that if you just decapitate the regime, somehow everything's going to be better. What happened? Iraq became a complete basket case. What happens when you take out a regime is you have a power vacuum. And Donald Trump has admitted that most of the candidates have been killed. What happens? And then he's going to start arming rival groups. What could possibly go wrong? There's absolutely no plan for this, and Keir Starmer is representing those fears.
Okay. Two responses. Number one, if I was called an anti-Semite, just like if I was called an Islamophobe, I couldn't care less. We're so far past the point in this country of this sort of silly name-calling. People at home don't care anymore by people on the left throwing out words like anti-Semite or Islamophobe to try and shut down debate.
Not trying to shut it down, we're trying to put out what it is.
Number two, the term, they are part of the fabric of British society, implies that they are integrated into British society. They're sewn into the fabric of the society. Too many Muslims are not integrated into this country. Not all of them, by any means, but too many are not. Too many live by the customs and routines and rituals of either the countries they have come from or from their religion, which is not compatible with this country. That is the concerns that people at home have, and that is the concerns that I have here.
Emma, your views on Keir Starmer's reaction? Because for me, I thought, look, initially, he's Mr. International Law, or at least claims to be, although it looks like Lord Herbert might have got a couple of things wrong when it comes to Chagos. But anyway, there we go. Initially, I thought, look, OK, I get it. It's a fast-moving situation. He doesn't know necessarily exactly how this is going to pan out in the coming hours. I can get why you wanted to maybe say, well, we didn't play an active role in the bombing of the Ayatollah. But it's the repetition of that line now. That is clearly, they have decided from a Labour comms perspective, this is the line they need to make sure every single person in Britain knows. And I suppose it's this thing, isn't it? Is it because people feel, the general British public, which of course includes the Muslim community, feel as though that they are just against this war? Or is it, do you think, that he's looking at the polling, where the Greens are at the moment, and thinking, I need every vote I can get here?
I think I imagine it probably has a large part to do with the increasing importance of the Muslim vote. I think it's also because we actually weren't involved initially. It seems as if we weren't really even consulted about this, which I think says something about the so-called special relationship and how Keir Starmer has bungled that. But I think he's probably hedging his bets because this could go horribly wrong, right? So I think probably from the perspective of the United States and Israel, this is their one chance, their little slither of chance to step in. And remember, this is a regime that has killed tens of thousands of its own people who have been trying to overthrow the regime. That this is potentially the moment where America and Israel can step in. And we've seen in other countries that the Iranians in exile have been coming and laying flowers outside of the Israeli embassy. So I think that this from the perspective of America, may have been the slither of hope, but from the perspective of Keir Starmer, he's probably thinking this could damage me politically, and also if this goes horribly wrong, I don't want to be involved. But it's probably primarily because he loves international law.
One of the main things that I can't understand about Keir Starmer's reaction to this so far is that we did a report here at GBNews earlier today, other news outlets did it as well, which appears to indicate chatter from the IRGC based here in Britain saying that they are considering launching attacks here, all of this stuff. And Starmer is not prescribing the IRGC as a terrorist organisation. Now, I am of the view that if they are prescribing Palestine action, it is totally nonsensical to not prescribe the IRGC. So why is he so weak on that? Because that wouldn't be a case of, you know, pandering to the Muslim vote or otherwise or whatever. I mean, that is, I think, by most people's definition, a fully fledged terrorist organisation. And that seems to just be a weakness, I think, isn't it, Jonathan?
Well, I mean, look, you saw that the Palestine action prescription was thrown out by the Supreme Court. So, you know, prescribing things is not necessarily the answer. And also, there are all kinds of things that go with prescribing organisations, that it sort of bans people from even expressing any support for a group. I happen to think that's wrong in all cases, by the way. I don't think I'm more of a free speech absolutist than some people on this panel, in that I don't think it should be a crime to hold up a piece of cloth, a flag.
By that, do you mean the ISIS flag?
I don't think it should be illegal to hold up a piece of cloth, Patrick.
The ISIS
I think it's morally reprehensible. I don't think it should be a crime where you can go to jail. Sorry. I have a very high bar for
You know that one of the people
freedom of
that was in a documentary called The Jihadi Next Door, who unfurled an ISIS flag in Regent's Park, was called Quran Butt. He then went on to slaughter people on the Borough Market attack. So sometimes
I think that if you are doing that thing, then there might be questions asked. I happen to think, I don't think it should be a crime to do that. It should be a crime to kill people, Patrick, and to call for killing people. That should be a crime. Anyway, so on the...
Can I just say, sorry, on Palestine action, I mean, that maybe is less of a cut and dry case than the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. I mean, this is really very straightforward. I mean, it as much as Hamas. So there isn't any reason why they wouldn't be... Iran have been planning terror attacks on British soil. 20 terror attacks, I think it was, in the last year. So this is...
I would have no basic objection to prescribing the IRGC. Like, if you're prescribing ISIS and Hamas, I don't see that there's a problem with that personally. All I'm saying is that there are questions that we should be asking about the scale of the law in prescribing things and about expressing support for organisations, which I don't think in general should be a crime.
All right, well, there we go. By the way, I will just say that you know, it's absolutely not fair to say that every single Muslim in Britain is, you know, is pro-Ayatollah, right? I mean, there's plenty of them that I know who live very close to where I live who are dead against the Ayatollah. In fact, they were quite annoyed that we let so many of the Ayatollah supporters into Britain because they came to Britain to get away from them. So there we go. But anyway, right, look, Great British giveaway now, and like I said, you know, it's good actually because it's a bulletproof, hypersonic, missile-proof camper van which will just about see you through World War III.
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benevan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. Sorry, I think I do have to now say it's not bulletproof or hypersonic missile-proof. I don't want to be accused of false advertising there, but anyway, just a little bit of topical satire. Coming up, I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Breaking news on the front of the Sun. Don't want to mispronounce this. Ship happens. Starmer sends one destroyer to protect RAF base. Nice. Do you remember when he put boots on the ground to protect Greenland as well? It was fantastic, just one blow. Anyway, and as we revealed earlier, it might not even set off for Cyprus until next week. More on that shortly. But first, look, very serious story this, of course. A stabbing in broad daylight outside a primary school in Birmingham. Is knife crime out of control? That's next.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Yeah, that's got a bit of a smell.
A birthday fit for a Queenie.
My name was Queenie Robinson. Everybody wants to know about my name. Is it a real name? Is it a nickname? No, it's not. It's on my birth certificate. My father forgot what I should have been called, and I've never found out since.
But the name didn't stick, and Queenie quickly became known as Robbie after signing up to join the RAF. Robbie served in the Women's Auxiliary Air Force in a bomber command, despite still being 17.
She said, "You are 18, aren't you?" I said, "Oh, yes, I'll be 19 in February." Biggest lie out. I was only 17. She sort of gave me an old-fashioned look. She didn't believe me, I know.
Her first love, Frank Vincent, also served in the war.
There's Frank, yeah. And that's his aircraft, the Lancaster.
Aged 21, he flew in the Lancaster bomber. But just months before they were due to get married, Frank was killed in action. Robbie has kept Frank's love of aviation alive, flying a Spitfire, aged 101.
I had a male called James as my pilot, and he said, "Do you want to do a victory roll, Robbie?" So I said, "Oh, yes." So we turned turtle sort of thing, and there was me sort of sitting there looking at pink clouds upside down.
In December, Robbie took to the skies once again, this time without an engine, in a glider, aged 102. This week, Robbie is celebrating her 103rd birthday.
My friend suggests that my next ambition is to jump tandem out of a plane.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. We're only on GB News. Now, very shortly, I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you. But first, a 32-year-old man has been arrested after a stabbing outside a primary school in the Alum Rock area of Birmingham this morning. Armed police scrambled to the scene and the school was put into lockdown after witnesses saw a man stabbing another man in the street in broad daylight. Reports suggest that a woman was also injured during the incident. Now, it comes after a 23-year-old man was charged in connection with a stabbing in Edinburgh yesterday. Also, of course, near a primary school. I'm joined now by Shabnam Chowdhury, the former New Scotland Yard Detective Superintendent. Thank you very, very much for joining us this evening. I think a lot of people out there are very concerned now about, obviously, knife crime in general, but also the kind of broad daylight nature of it and the proximity to schools now as well.
Yeah, good evening, Patrick. There doesn't seem to be like any particular time of day or night that you do get these serious offences taking place. It can be middle of the afternoon. I've heard of incidents recently after school. The fact that this particular incident was outside, very close to a primary school, must have been really petrifying for families, parents, and also the school students. That particular school was locked down. But, you know, in general, there doesn't seem to be a particular time. If somebody wants to carry a knife and commit one of these serious offences, they just pick the time that is relevant for them and out they go.
One of the things that stands out for me about all of this is that I don't remember ever doing a lockdown drill when I was at school, and I don't think many of my friends at different schools did either. But I talk now to quite a lot of people who do have children at primary schools or secondary schools, and apparently it's now quite a common thing to do these lockdown drills. And I think that does indicate that there appears to be more of a risk or a perceived risk anyway, around schools in Britain now.
Yeah, I think it's not just about knife crimes. I think it's about serious crimes in general, whether it's terrorist incidents and so on. I do some school reading, actually, in a school in East London, and they have these drills with the children in the primary schools. But I think that's quite a good thing, really, to ensure the safety of the children and also of the teachers and the parents. And it gives parents a little bit more reassurance that when their children are at school, that they are being protected, which sounds absolutely ridiculous because, like you, I don't ever remember in my school days of having these kind of lockdown drills or even having the conversations. But I guess as time has moved on, because we've got social media, because we've got all this type of, the stuff that goes out on the media, it's much more sort of highlighted to the general public.
So you don't think the problem is necessarily getting any worse then? You think that actually it's more about the exposure to it? So like for example, what we're seeing on the screens right now, which is, I think, taken from someone's mobile phone footage, or indeed people like me talking about it more? Or do you think that the problem is actually getting worse?
Yeah, the problem has actually got slightly better. I think we've seen a 20% reduction in the last sort of 18 months across England and Wales. And I think there's lots and lots of different initiatives that are going on. They've got a long, long way to go. If you look at, they had Ronan's Law last year where they banned the zombie swords and the knives and so on. They recovered a significant number of knives. They have these mobile surrender units which go around the areas, and they've had a number of knives that have been handed in. So police are doing a lot with partners. There's different charities that are working with the police and agencies to combat and reduce it. So there's actually been a reduction in London in general, specifically. There's been a 20% reduction in homicide, so the lowest it's been in 5 years. But you've got places like Greater Manchester, West Midlands, for example, where it is slightly higher than what it is in London because of the demographics and because they're bigger cities as well.
Shadhan, thank you very much for your time this evening. I do appreciate it. Shadhan Chowdhury there is a former New Scotland Yard detective superintendent, just reacting to that story that was kind of really shocking, certainly first thing this morning when it first broke about that stabbing outside a primary school in Birmingham. I just wonder with the kids here, when they are exposed to this kind of stuff, how scarring and how traumatising that is for people. Right, OK, well, still to come, I will be getting you all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. And if we have a look here at the Daily Mail, a Prime Minister who Trump mocks as no Churchill and a Navy fleet stranded in port. Kind of a double whammy of a headline there, isn't it, really? How have we ended up in this situation? More on that shortly.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Bit of a mixed bag weather-wise, looking across southern Europe at the moment. Yes, there's some wet weather in the west. We had Storm Regina pushing through Portugal, now bringing some rain across parts of Spain, even down towards the Canaries. Further east, a few showers for Italy, but across Greece it's actually largely dry on Wednesday. Some decent sunshine, and with that some decent warmth as well, with temperatures rising high teens, possibly low 20s. Still some further rain in Spain to come later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow starting fairly cloudy, but for much of England and Wales it should brighten up with some good spells of sunshine. Some brightness across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but also a few showers. Big chunky area of high pressure dominating things at the moment. It's just waddling away to the east, which is allowing the air to waft up from the south, pushing a zone of cloudier weather across the Midlands and Wales. Been there all day, just a bit further north into Northern England and Northern Ireland, where we will see a little bit of showery rain through the early hours, eventually getting into southwest Scotland before dawn. Ahead of that, to the north, clear skies across northern Scotland, allowing some frost here. Further south, temperatures mostly holding up at 5 to 6 degrees. But it will be quite a cloudy, misty, murky start for many on Wednesday. But the mist and low cloud should be melting away from England and Wales. Probably a bright, sunny start in the far north, but it will be a chilly start here. That cloud pushing up through the central belt, some showery rain, particularly for Glasgow and for Belfast first thing. But it should be also clearing from here during the morning. The odd shower for the far northwest of England, for the Lake District, but most of England and Wales dry and increasingly sunny. Yes, we will start with mist and low cloud, particularly across the home counties, parts of the East Midlands, but that should be melting away, breaking up to reveal some spring sunshine, and say most of England and Wales seeing lengthy sunny spells by the afternoon. Some brightness for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but this zone of wetter weather clinging to parts of western Scotland. To the east, it may brighten up in Edinburgh. Temperatures up to 12 degrees here, but further south, we're looking at temperatures in the mid-teens quite widely, perhaps the southeast getting up to 17 or 18. And Thursday could be warmer still. The wind's still wafting the air up from the south, a brisk breeze across the northeast. Some wetter weather, though, coming back into Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Eventually some of that rain popping up in the west of England and Wales later on. But before that, the Midlands and eastern England, another pretty fine day and getting a little warmer. Goodbye.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight, only on GB News. Right, let's give you the first look at all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The Metro, Trump, too late to talk. School tragedy fear as conflict grows. Everything knocked out, so no negotiations, he boasts. Then war on Iran sparks a bitter new rift with Britain. Tried to cram a lot into those kind of headlines there, haven't they, the Metro? I'm not entirely sure that works. The Guardian, US and Israel intensify Iran attacks as conflict widens. Interesting that they have kind of really chosen to furnish the article here with a big picture of mourners gather at a funeral for the victims killed in an Israeli airstrike on a school in Manab, southern Iran. Too late for talk, says Trump, as reports claim the death toll is close to 800. Trump says Starmer is no Churchill. The Sun, ship happens. Iran war, scramble to Cyprus as Trump blasts Keir as no Churchill. PM sends one destroyer to defend the RAF base. And finally, for this round, we have got the Daily Telegraph. Starmer is no Churchill. Britain has been attacked and our aircraft carrier is stuck at home. Look, let's deal with this a bit, really. So, there is a lesson here and a sign here about the depletion of Britain's armed forces. And can I just say, I'm not trying to throw shade at anyone who's in the armed forces. I firmly believe that they're the best trained, some of the bravest in the world. But ultimately, there is a question of resources at play here. And if we had basically one Type 45 destroyer that we can use, that's awful. Really.
But all countries have limited resources, Patrick. And this is where you have to think back to all of the stupid spending that goes on in this country and go, every time you spend money on excessive benefits, every time you spend money on net zero, every time you spend money on whatever particular, woke initiative at a council level.
Housing legal migrants.
Housing legal migrants. Take your pick. There are so many to choose from. You are taking money away from essential services like defence.
Well, actually, it's funny you should say that, because we do have some breaking news for you now.
Ooh.
And we can reveal it exclusively here on GB News. We won't be getting this anywhere else. GB News can reveal that failed asylum seekers who submit last-minute new evidence to stall their deportation will have their claims immediately rejected. This is all part of the Home Secretary's plan to speed up asylum decisions and deportations. Currently, asylum seekers can submit new evidence regarding their claim even after it has been refused. From next month, these submissions will be rejected. So what this, I think, is designed to do, Emma, is to stop some of the old classics. Like, you've failed on the grounds that you are not a genuine asylum seeker, but then all of a sudden you become a gay Christian from Iran and you can't go back. So this is designed to stop that, I think.
It seems like such a no-brainer, doesn't it? We've been taken for a ride for so long, and the rules seem to be so stacked against us doing what we should be able to do. People we should be able to deport. We fail their asylum claims, and then they just continue to stick around here. I think that we should actually be going further, and we should be making it impossible for anybody who comes here illegal to claim asylum.
I've actually just been given another breaking news line here. This is pretty big as well. The government is going to end study visas from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar and Sudan, and work visas for Afghans. So this is just coming through now. This is the information that I'm being given here. The government is going to end study visas from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar and Sudan, and work visas for Afghans.
So they're making explicit judgments on particular cultures and their worthiness to come to the country.
Sets a good precedent.
Interesting.
Well, that's what it seems like, anyway.
Well,
I agree with it.
It sounds as if they're actually copying the SDP's policy of having red list countries. The SDP, which most people, I think, haven't really heard very much about for quite some time, recently came out with a policy where they said we should have red list countries that we shouldn't allow people to come from.
But the reality is that a year ago, the Labor Party would have shouted you down as racist for that exact policy.
Well, I mean, the reality is now that there's plenty of people who are on the Labour Party backbenches who might do exactly that. Jonathan, your views on this? Obviously, the two kind of breaking news lines when it comes to asylum and immigration here, that you're not going to be able to submit any kind of last-minute new information about your asylum claim, and also you're not going to be able to get a study visa from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar and Sudan, and by the sounds of it, any work visas from Afghanistan either.
I think it's appalling. Look, if the government wants to reform, they will find that people would rather vote for the full-fat version rather than the ersatz one. People don't like Trump in this country. I'm not sure why. We are trying to ape his policies either. It is disgusting.
I think on the first point, I agree with Patrick, actually, with Jonathan, actually. I don't think electorally, I think it's the right thing to do, but I think he's right in saying that electorally they will just go for the reform option.
It's not working. People don't want that. People want to vote Labour because of the Labour Party.
It's such a confused
and now you've got the Green Party that is kind of completely taking the votes from Labour. Labour's going to end up completely exposed on both flanks. They don't know what to do. This is not the way forward. They should be going further left.
This is right. Well, I disagree with that, but this is how confused the party is. We started this hour by talking about the allegation that Keir Starmer is desperately trying to come out. He's attended an iftar event in Parliament tonight. He's desperately trying to come out and say, we had nothing to do with the slotting of the Ayatollah. Absolutely nothing at all. Please don't hate us if you're pro-Ayatollah. And then at the same time, the Home Secretary's coming out and gone, just by the way, no visas now for people from Afghanistan,
And all it will do is confirm people in their hatred. The people who on the left who hate Labour will look at this and hate them more. The people on the right will hate them for the other thing.
It is schizophrenic.
Party,
that is exactly the word I was going to use. It is schizophrenic. And I think what they're realising is basically that the floor has opened up beneath them, and it's opened up beneath the Conservative Party as well. They have to make a choice. Are they going to go left or are they going to go right? And in the case of Starmer versus Shabana Mahmood, I actually think that she is much more to the right on this, which is good that she's in the role that she is. And Keir Starmer, I think, seems to be just standing in the middle, flapping about and panicking, which, again, I think is the reason why you see this paralysis over what's happening with Iran.
The thing is, they're both done. The Conservatives and Labor are both done. The centre ground in British politics is crumbling. I think neither of them will win another election in this country.
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, OK. I've just got a stat here, which is asylum applications by students from Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar and Sudan rocketed by 470% between 2021 and 2025. So you can see...
people taking the mick. No surprise.
Well, there might have been there was an actual coup in Myanmar during that time, which might have something to do with it.
But that's not student visas, is it? We'll be talking about people who are bringing dependents over.
There's also been a genocide of the Rohingya people as well.
And that's tragic. But the reality is that the immigration policy should be about bringing in people from culturally compatible countries who will be economic beneficiaries, and they're not from those countries.
Yeah, I mean, look, as regular viewers and listeners, and indeed panellists will know, I am often deeply critical of this Labour government, and rightly so. I don't apologise for that. However, I think with something like this, you know, when you look at it, I mean, in my view, this is something that should have been happening years ago.
Credit where credit is due.
So if they're doing it now, then that's OK. The only thing I will say about this, though, is that this is exactly the kind of policy that both Sir Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer would have opposed in court
Patrick, let me tell
in a
you,
former lifetime.
And just like one thing that we haven't mentioned so far tonight, the people cheerleading for this war probably will be less keen about it when Iranians who are being bombed, you know, off the face of the earth decide they might want to leave Iran and seek haven elsewhere. Suddenly we won't be so thinking so kindly about the Iranian people, I seem to think.
Well, I don't know exactly who's cheerleading for it, because actually there have been a lot of people on the right who have been very critical
at least
of
one
it
person who is.
for this particular reason. And as I said earlier, I'm ambivalent about it. I don't necessarily think this is going to end well.
This argument from the left doesn't stack up, because if you have the proper disincentives in place to stop people from coming to this country, i.e. offshore detention and processing, put them in detention
I don't think it's a disincentive to bomb them off the face of the earth, Will.
Yes.
That's not a disincentive for people to leave.
Yeah, but my point is they will not come to this country if they will be put in detention centres.
Well, we shouldn't be supporting bombing them then if we don't want them to leave.
We can have that argument, that's a separate argument.
And by the way,
have refugees
and by the way, Iranians
fleeing the Iranian regime.
Yeah, exactly. And we took the Iranians are already fleeing the regime, which we think is obviously terrible. But we criticise them for leaving, so we can't have it all, can we? Can't have our cake and eat it.
OK.
Sounds like you're trying to.
All right.
How exactly am I doing that?
Well, on that note, we have more front pages coming your way. And will there be some more breaking news? All kicking off all around the world, so probably yes. Don't move.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, I actually looked at the survey and looked at the questions asked, and there are two questions asked. The first is, all things considered, how satisfied are you with life as a whole these days? And the second question asked is a sense of meaning. And you're asked to give a value to, I generally feel that what I do in life is valuable and worthwhile. And on the second question, all parents across the board from all socio-economic backgrounds answer that life is much more meaningful with children. But in terms of life satisfaction, particularly where it's like with single parents, or if you don't have faith, or if you don't have family support, life can be harder, which is true. So the real question is, how can we support families to really, in the job of raising children, because it's not the having children that's the problem. Children do not ruin your life. They give you so much. It requires a lot of work, but what you get back is so much, and you experience depths of love, enrichment that you don't find normally. So it depends on what you do,
but you've got to be realistic. Kids also cause problems as well. As much as I'm blessed to be a mother of 4. Children are hard work, and people live in a fantasy, and I think that is why there is so much postnatal depression, so much people don't know what's going to hit them. I think people get into this bubble, think they're going to have this child, they're going to travel the world, and it's all going to be bliss. If you're poor, that ain't happening. I think we know many people get divorced because of having kids. Kids do cause happiness, and don't get me wrong, they do give you so much, like you said, enrichment, but on a realistic level, I think they can be hard work. And to me, when I go up the nursery, no mum looks happy. That's just me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, let's round up tomorrow's newspaper front pages. This round starts with The Independent. Starmer's no Churchill, says Trump. as warship is deployed to Cyprus. The I paper, war spreads across the Middle East as Trump rages at Starmer. Then we've got the Daily Mail, a Prime Minister who Trump mocks as no Churchill, and a Navy fleet stranded in port. And I think, can I just say, I think that is probably the most damning front page of the day, really, there, about kind of the idea of a Britain in decline. But the Times, PM is no Churchill, says Trump as tensions rise. Look, there's obviously a theme across the front pages there, really. Can we just keep the Daily Mail's one on the front page, please? Thank you. Imagine if Keir Starmer had been in charge when Argentina invaded the Falklands. That's the opening line of the Daily Mail's front page. Or worse still, in 1940, when Britain stood alone against Hitler, as Trump said last night, sitting in front of a bust of our greatest PM, Starmer is no Churchill. For once, the US president was putting it mildly. I mean, this is an eviscerating comment piece on the front of the Daily Mail. For any Prime Minister to read that, people would be inclined to think it's game over, and what is this guy doing occupying number 10?
He is almost the worst possible person to be in charge of the country at a time of because this really is unprecedented. When you look at what's happening with Russia, with China, what's happening in the Middle East, he is the worst person to be. I mean, there are worse options available, but historically speaking, I mean, he couldn't possibly be less competent and more of a weakling.
This is the thing. It's because you need two things in a time of a crisis. You need to have moral clarity, and you need to have the ability to inspire the people. Now, we've talked about the moral clarity side and the lack of conviction and all that. We haven't talked about the other very obvious point, which is whenever he speaks, you just go, this is so utterly depressing.
Would you follow that man?
Would you follow that man? You know, it is important.
I'd prosecute you afterwards.
It is, and even Labor politicians, well, Keir's strong suit isn't necessarily speaking or, you know, inspiring people. That matters as a politician.
Well, he'd be litigating
and it really matters now. Yeah. It's.
Jonathan, you look in physical pain.
I find it so deeply embarrassing that a patriotic British, it's obviously not, but a so-called self-proclaimed patriotic British newspaper would take the side of someone who hates Britain over our elected government. But the Daily Mail thinks that people would rather have Trump than Starmer. And by the way, who exactly has destroyed the special relationship, if it ever existed? Because let's face it, what the special relationship means for the United States, and actually this is not just Trump who believed this, is the UK doing exactly what the US wants at any given time. It has never been an actual relationship that has worked as a partnership of equals.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that is literally not true. I mean, there is that famous moment where Winston Churchill, of course, had to call the US leader and say, look, we are about to be invaded here by Germany. Please, can you...
I'm not saying the United States... Yeah, and by the way, the United States didn't actually help until they were invaded themselves. The United States was actually taking a resolutely neutral position. Obviously, they were helping us on the side. I'm not saying the United States has never done anything right or never helped us, but the special relationship is an uneven one. And who actually broke the special relationship under Trump? Is it Starmer for standing up for British interests and siding with the British people who opposed this war, remembering what happened in 2003? Or is it the guy who a couple of weeks ago was threatening to put punitive tariffs on us for objecting to the invasion of Greenland, a NATO ally? For heaven's sake, Donald Trump has destroyed the special relationship, not Keir Starmer.
How damaging do you think this is, though? The Daily Mail comment piece here. I mean, it ends with, well, it ends on the front page with the line, he is a national embarrassment. I mean...
I'm coming from the Daily Mail, my goodness.
Just think about what this projects to other countries, what this tells other countries about Britain's willingness to defend itself, that we don't even have the military there ready and able to defend a hit on British sovereign territory in the form of that RAF base. I always think this is a really bizarre argument coming from the right, from the left, that for some reason the patriotic Brits, those who love this country, can't be critical of the government of the time, which is a profoundly unpatriotic.
I never said they can't be critical.
Well, that's...
I'm saying that people might not like Starmer, but they despise
the
Trump.
idea of sending one British naval ship as well. I mean, it has got echoes of when it was all kicking off over Greenland, and he sent one bloke to Greenland. Yeah. One individual member of the British Armed Forces to Greenland.
Which is, as we've discussed, technically boots on the ground, Patrick. You keep saying a boot on the ground.
I know, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I need to... If only he had one leg. I really need it as part of some new kind of diversity program. This guy just has one leg, right? And then it'd be the best joke I've ever told. But no, tragically, this guy has two legs. Right? Anyway, on that note, Right, so, look, obviously we've got a lot more to get stuck into with the front pages and what's inside the box tomorrow. Thank you to my wonderful panel. Thank you to you for watching and listening. We've got another hour, though, so don't go anywhere.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow starting fairly cloudy, but for much of England and Wales it should brighten up with some good spells of sunshine. Some brightness across Scotland and Northern Ireland, but also a few showers. Big chunky area of high pressure dominating things at the moment. It's just waddling away to the east, which is allowing the air to waft up from the south, pushing a zone of cloudier weather across the Midlands and Wales. Been there all day, just a bit further north into Northern England and Northern Ireland, where we will see a little bit of showery rain through the early hours, eventually getting into southwest Scotland before dawn. Ahead of that, to the north, clear skies across northern Scotland, allowing some frost here. Further south, temperatures mostly holding up at 5 to 6 degrees. But it will be quite a cloudy, misty, murky start for many on Wednesday. But the mist and low cloud should be melting away from England and Wales. Probably a bright sunny start in the far north, but it will be a chilly start here. That cloud pushing up through the central belt, some showery rain, particularly for Glasgow and for Belfast first thing. But it should be also clearing from here during the morning. The odd shower for the far northwest of England, for the Lake District, but most of England and Wales dry and increasingly sunny. Yes, we will start with mist and low cloud, particularly across the home counties, parts of the East Midlands, but that should be melting away, breaking up to reveal some spring sunshine, and say most of England and Wales seeing lengthy sunny spells by the afternoon. Some brightness for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but this zone of wetter weather clinging to parts of western Scotland. To the east, it may brighten up in Edinburgh, temperatures up to 12 degrees here, but further south we're looking at temperatures in the mid-teens quite widely, perhaps the southeast getting up to 17 or 18, and Thursday could be warmer still. The wind still wafting the air up from the south, a brisk breeze across the northeast, some wetter weather though coming back into Northern Ireland and western Scotland, eventually some of that rain popping up in the west of England and Wales later on. But before that, the Midlands and eastern England, another pretty fine day and getting a little warmer. Goodbye.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Ship happens. That's on the front of the Sun. Starmer has sent one Navy ship to go and defend our bases in Cyprus, mainly because it's the only Navy ship that we can send, apparently. All the others are in for maintenance. A devastating story there about a state of Britain's modern decline. Obviously, lots of the front pages are leading on the idea that President Trump has mocked Starmer as, quote, no Churchill. We're also going to be having a look at the economic impact of Britain on what's going on in Iran. And the Greens are now in second place in this country. What a mad world, eh?
You could be the proud owner of a brand new Benevan 122. This very latest 2026 model comfortably sleeps 4, comes complete with built-in kitchen, compact washroom, and is worth over £67,000. But that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £25,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like in the coming year. For a chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry starts at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,